Bitcoin's next move has been revealed by one of the oldest and most trusted macro indicators of all time, the copper-gold ratio. And right now, this ratio has formed a multi-year bottom. Now we can determine this because Bitcoin and this copper-gold ratio follow a very predictable pattern. It has worked for every single major Bitcoin bull run. First, copper-gold ratio finds a bottom, and then confidence returns to the markets and Bitcoin goes parabolic. Marty Party nails it perfectly. Copper to gold ratio is a known indicator to smart money that the business cycle is bottoming. When this does happen, it's always before the trend to a parabolic crypto bull run. Now here's a simple breakdown on why copper is important for economic growth. When there's an expectation of industrial demand, whether this is automotive, whether this is building construction or infrastructure, there is a surge in the price of copper. Gold, however, is known for the opposite. People buy gold when they expect uncertainty. Now that could be inflation, global instability, or just debt concerns. So when the copper-gold ratio rises, this is people betting on growth, which is great for the price of Bitcoin. Now I want to play a clip from an analyst from Semler Scientific. Semler Scientific is a Bitcoin holding company. In fact, they have a goal of 100,000 Bitcoin by 2027. And big money loves Semler Scientific. Their largest stockholder is Morgan Stanley. Now, this is Joe Burnett. He's the head of Bitcoin strategy at Semler Scientific. He talks about the copper-gold ratio's effect on Bitcoin.
In 2016, copper started to recover from a brutal bear market. The copper-gold ratio climbed steadily. That same year, Bitcoin rose from $400 to over $1,000. And it didn't stop there. As copper kept outperforming gold, Bitcoin went parabolic, reaching $20,000 by the end of 2017.
So here we have the copper-gold ratio kickstarting the 2017 bull run.
Same thing happened in 2020. The world was coming out of lockdowns, copper exploded higher, and Bitcoin surged from $5,000 to $69,000.
And so the copper-gold ratio also kickstarted the 2021 bull run, which Bitcoin would end up at $69,000. And you can even check the tops of Bitcoin's price cycle and the top of copper-gold ratio. There's a correlation there as well. Now, Joe Burnett pointed this out actually 2 months ago, but people were thinking this was the local bottom for the copper-gold ratio. But if we go to the copper-gold ratio, the June 2 months ago was this bearish period right here. We're looking at the weekly candles. Copper-gold would actually need to go a little bit lower and come test the previous lows that we saw during that COVID crash in 2020. So even though Bitcoin is in an uptrend, given that this copper-gold ratio looks like it wants to turn around, maybe there's a lot of gas left in the Bitcoin tank. And to me, it looks like it's finally about to turn around. We have some pretty strong bullish divergence on the RSI, which is exactly what we saw before it turned around in 2020. And that's when the price makes a lower low, but the relative strength index makes a higher low. So if you look at where we're at today in this cycle, it's a little bit different. In the last 3 cycles, Bitcoin's bull run started after copper-gold ratio bottomed. However, during this Bitcoin cycle, for the entirety of Bitcoin's run, copper has been bleeding relative to gold. So first cycle, you see a low on the copper-gold ratio, then you see a top, and the tops coincide. You see a low on the copper-gold ratio, then you see a top, the tops coincide, and then you see a low on the copper-gold ratio, and the tops are essentially coinciding. But this cycle, we are just now seeing the copper-gold ratio low, while Bitcoin is basically in the middle of a very nice uptrend. So keep an eye out on this large macro indicator to give Bitcoin that fuel up to maybe $175,000 or even $200,000 this cycle. So I want to give a big shout out to Marty Party for talking about the copper-gold ratio, and a big shout out to Joe Burnett, Semler Scientific, for putting out this analysis. And I'm DZ for Discover Crypto, and hopefully I'll see you and your ingots of copper or your Bitcoin at the top.